Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. As you can see, here again at my wee garage. The plan today is I'm going to get the Bandit out. I'm going to make a decision of what I'm going to do to it. I think I'm going to start tidying it up. Seems to be running okay just now, so we'll get it out the lock up and get started. So, at some point in this bike's life, so my dad had it about 10 years ago. It actually shows up in my introduction reel here, in the background when I was building my XJ900. So at that time it was in my dad's ownership. It then was traded in for a GSX 1250F. About 3 years after it was traded in, my brother found it in a shop called Cooper Motorcycles. He bought it from them, rode it for a year. Whoever had it in the middle time had used it to commute on, so it had got in a bit of a sorry state. My brother tidied it up enough to use, and then following that, it was kind of left under a tarpaulin outdoors, which Suzukis of this era don't really like. I think any bike doesn't really like, they just rot away. So my brother, in all his wisdom, decided to try and tidy it up again, and he took a wire brush to the peg hangers and stuff like that, with the intention that he was going to rough them up and coat them with paint. That never got done. They're just left in the wire brush state. So I think what I'm going to do, because it's quite a big little bit, or quite a big bit to hang off the bike there, and because they're in such a sorry state, visually looking at the bike, that's just going to ruin it. So we'll take them off today. I'm going to try and work my magic. I'll incorporate that into this video, and I'll show you how to restore hangers on an old bike if you were doing a restoration. Right, so getting them off shouldn't be too difficult. Obviously this one's easier because you've not got the exhaust in the way here on this bike. So I'll start off with this one, take them off, and then I'll let you see how bad they actually look. But first of all, the ground here is kind of wet, kind of hard on my knees. I'm going to go into my camper van, I'm going to get a rug, I'm going to lay a rug out just to make it a wee bit easier to work. Right guys, so this is one of these like cheap rugs you get on like eBay and stuff like that. It's just it's called a rag rug or something like that. But I'm sure this bit of rug was only about maybe £15. And initially I had it inside my van, and I would take it out for the dog to lie on. It's got in such a manky state that it's kind of just turned into something that I lean on when I'm at the lockup and stuff now. But definitely worth buying. Look them up on eBay. It's a rag rug. And for this type of thing, just protects your knees absolutely perfectly. So I've got my tool set here, I'll get my tools ready, I'll get this off, and then I'll let you see how it looks. Right, so what I will say while doing this, obviously it's an Allen key. Try not to do this with a little Allen key that you get on the key rings, they're no great. Make sure you use a socket type. What you've got to remember is, these screws are actually going into the frame of the bike. So the last thing you really want to do is end up chewing the head of it and having to drill it out, because you've got the frame here. I have seen this done before where people have had to drill them out and then they put a bolt through it when not on the back, but we'll try and avoid that in this instance. So I've got my socket, I put it in and make sure that it's properly seated in there. A lot of people, they don't actually put the Allen key right into the head of it, and I think that causes the start of the problems. So, right, that wasn't tight in the slightest, so hopefully this one's the same. Right, it looks like they're going to come out really easily, which is a good sign. I'll take the forward hangers off as well, but what you've got to remember is there's stuff attached to there. We've got the gear linkage and that on this one, so a wee bit more to it. The reason I've started on this one first is just so that you can see what I'm talking about with how bad they look with the wire brush treatment. Right, that's one off there, so I'll get the camera and I'll let you have a look. Right guys, so first one's here, and you can see how rough and bad it looks. My intentions are, I want the faces of them. Well, I think my bus is in the way, 2 seconds, somebody's trying to get out. Right, I'm back. I was totally lost in the moment there. I sometimes forget that other people are trying to use these garages. Right, so where was I? I was just, I was showing you how bad this was, wasn't I? So yeah, you can see that it's quite etched in. So the trick to sorting that out, what I want is, I want the sort of back side of it, I want this all to be painted kind of like a dark grey or whatever, but the faces there are all scratched. I'm just going to get different grades of sandpaper, try and smooth them out as best I can. So I've done this kind of work before, and it does take a bit of time, but the finished result is really worth it. So I'll get all the hangers off. I'm not going to record me taking them all off, but I'll get the hangers off, I'll get this stuff back to my house, and I'll just sit at my garden bench and basically try and tidy them up. Right, so I've started on the rear hanger there for the other side, and obviously I have to take the bolt out for the exhaust. I've got a bungee holding the exhaust up, but I've just discovered that the actual exhaust at the bottom here, don't know if you can see that, but here, if you let go of that bungee, like that, is just not held in at all. I believe that's the work of my big brother. Enough said. Right, so obviously the one at the back brake, there's a bit more going on here. So through it, the cylinder there, these bolts here, so cylinder sits at the back, and these bolts, they were actually a bit tough to crack. So what to do is, you have to make sure that the hanger's actually still connected to the bike before you try and crack these ones, because chances are they're going to be a bit tighter. I realised why the hangers are actually easy to come off. They're rubber mounted, so they're not in too tight. But there's a wee bit of moisture behind this cylinder here, so I'm being a wee bit careful. But I think I'm going to have to inspect the cylinder itself. I might need a replacement for that, but we'll look into that when we get the hanger off and start dismantling it. Right guys, just to let you show how that you actually take this one off, because obviously it's a bit more intricate. So once you take the reservoir off, like I showed you these two bolts that we had to crack, you're then able to lift the brake lever to get into the bottom bolt for the hanger. And once you remove the hanger from the frame there, it's a really simple task. You've got a wee split pin there, so you can take that pin out, and then the whole cylinder, I went blank there, the whole cylinder will just pull out of there, and then you just undo the springs, and then you've got the switch mechanism here. It's just a plastic nut here on the end there, so we'll just get that loosened off, we'll be able to slide that out, and that's basically everything that you need. Right guys, so a top tip for this video, and one that I tend to carry out, is when I take stuff apart, if possible, I tend to put all the bolts back in the place that they came from, and it just ends up, it saves you losing bits and bobs. Long time ago I used to just throw everything in a tub, and it doesn't matter how hard you think you're going to remember, you don't remember what goes with what. Another thing is, like, obviously I'll change the split pin and that, but wee component parts like that, you lose that pin, what are you going to use, you know? So yeah, try and keep everything together really. Right guys, so I've brought these hangers back home like I said I would. I've quickly washed them in the sink, got an old basin, some soapy fairy liquid, just to get the majority of the dirt from the back of them. So this one I've not really looked at yet. I've got two rear ones that I'm working on first, side by side. So I'm hoping this shows up. This one here I've started on. This one here I've not done anything to. Not sure if you can see. It's So that one there, that one's still scored. This one here started to smooth out a wee bit. It's still no perfect, but it shows that the method's working. So all I do, initially I get a bit of wire wool and I just try and wash that with a bit of soap. You know, these wire wool pads that you get the soap in. Can't remember what brand they are, but I use them initially. Then I just get a 1500 grade wet and dry sandpaper, and I start just in the sink, still warm soapy water, and I just sort of rub the surface of the hanger there. It takes a wee bit of work. You end up looking like you've been down a coal mine. A lot of black comes out of this, but what you've got to remember is it's no magic. All you're doing, if you looked under this under a microscope, it's all kind of jagged, and all you're doing is trying to smooth that out, and that gives you the shiny finish. So you just keep going back and forward with the sandpaper until you get the desired effect. So a bit time consuming, but once they're finished and I've got the surfaces polished, and the plan is just to paint the rest of it a nice silver around, like where it just sort of, you get a wee bit of oxidization there in the finish. So we'll get that sanded down with a heavier duty sandpaper once we've done the surfaces, and then we'll give it a wee coat of paint. Once that dries, if you've got any sort of overspray on your polished surfaces, you just give that a wee polish up again, take the overspray off, and then they're ready to go back on the bike. So not a big job, but certainly a time consuming one. Anyway, I'm going to crack on with these. I've only just started the first one. I'm not going to film it. Right guys, I've been working away on the rear hangers there. You can see how it comes up, and it isn't perfect. You can see some blemishes in that, but considering how scored they were, that's the kind of finish that you're looking for. It's going to take a bit of a process to get it all painted up and keep these faces polished. So I'm not going to put the spray painting into this video. But yeah, it seems to be going quite well. Right guys, I'm just going to end this video here. I feel like it's getting a wee bit repetitive. There's nothing really more to tell you. I'm just going to have to crack on with this because it does take a bit of time. So for now, thanks for watching. Please hit the like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you on the next video.